Hello and welcome to today's episode. We're in the 60s. What is it, 66? Woohoo! And I'm here and I'm going to stay here, guys. But everyone had a lot of fun with my meme coin, my shitcoin episode. And there's been a lot of good feedback saying, hey, Graham, how do I do this? Well, turns out really easy. And if you guys want to get into it, let me at least give you some feedback on what I learned. Let's get into it. So here's my chart, right? I started yesterday and I was pretty early on, actually. By the episode that I produced, I was kind of in this first spike. And then I had what's a triple bottom, which is generally considered a really good thing on a chart. Now, let's be real. Price action on a 1 minute chart is the most ridiculous thing that you could conceive of. Why is that, Graham? Well, this is because each one of these little squares, if we zoom in here, right, we see 1 block, 2 block, 3 blocks, so on and so forth. That's just 1 minute. Now, when you're going to do technical analysis, you really do need a broader history set. So a couple minutes of history is just pure speculation. There's nothing really there, right? You're basically trying to predict the future off of like a very limited data set of the past. However, then I got the friends engaged and it started to get exciting and it got on the front page and it got super nuts. People were creating Telegram groups around it. The provider CTO, which means Chief Technology Officer, it's sort of a lolsy joke, but it did start to spike and it got really exciting. And then of course, trying to get to graduation to mint, I was like almost there. I was this close, almost touched it. But it didn't happen, and that was a bummer, and I had high hopes. But of course, I did this entirely half-baked. I didn't really do any planning. I didn't prep any of the homies. I just kind of asked them after I launched it. And, suffice it to say, some guys came in, and I think they aggressively bought it here, hoping that they could control the supply. When you actually go down a little bit here in the web page, we can see holders. I'm the dev now, right? So this is my wallet at 7% of the supply. I wasn't even on this list yesterday. I was so low down, it was pretty absurd. So you can tell that in this point, some foreign entity, people I don't know, they started to buy this up and see if they could ride the pump and probably play the dump. I assume it's the same people that got in here in comments and made all of these weird Telegram groups, right? And I made one comment that dumping provide does nothing to provide for your family, and other people are posting other assets and like bots and all this silly stuff. Like you can see what a cesspool this place is. But I do see, and I got some takeaways of how you could probably make this successful if you truly wanted to. Now, one important thing is that a lot of this is really going to be based around insider trading and things that in registered markets would be considered illegal. However, recently we did get the SEC to come out and admit that meme coins are not regulated assets and that they're completely baseless and you can basically do whatever the hell you want. I took a storyline that I built, I put it out there. I think it was kind of fun. I think that's the reason I had the stickiness that I had. However, if I really wanted to do this, again, and appropriately, I'll tell you exactly what I would do. I would get into Twitter more aggressively. I would probably create a dedicated account. What I did find was that my Twitter account gained a lot of followers. I actually made more followers on this fucking shitcoin than I did trying to post real content. That's a little bit of a kick in the balls, quite frankly, but it is what it is. I'll take the follows, baby. And very quickly they're in my DMs asking me, what's the plan for this coin? What am I going to do to support it? So I was obviously not going to pivot my account, which has people that know me. I have friends. I have like the bit of respect and reputation that I've built in the industry. I wasn't going to turn it all into a shitcoin for the provider because the provider is just a fun meme that I've been building. However, if I did want to do this for real, I would recommend a full separate account so that you actually can dedicate energy to it so that you're offloading that reputational risk to something else. That also means that there's a head figure, a leading figure. This is something that people are looking for. They were asking me, are you going to lock your tokens? Are you going to burn them? Like, what's the plan for all this? And I'm sitting there like, guys, I have, $100 worth of tokens. Like, I'm not thinking about anything. I'm not committed. This isn't really worth my time, but it's a fun, lolsy adventure. So one, dedicate a Twitter account personally to it, right? The content stream. As I did see spontaneously, and this was surprising, people created a Telegram group around it. So you might want to also own that Telegram group right out of the gate. It was very strange that other people bought the token supply and then created the Telegram group, basically looking at this as something that they could poach and manage. So easily you could lose control if you don't have the handles set up, if you don't have anything, if you don't have the communication channels really ready to own that distribution, right? And distribution is really important. All of those channels can be posted in the comments. So that's something that can easily lead top of funnel, right? Basically the token chart where they're purchasing it is your top of funnel. You would need your dedicated Twitter accounts, your dedicated Telegram group, anything else that you want to build. But I think those two are the best. Then probably some guidelines to how you want to think about this, right? How are you going to control basically the governance of the coin? People want to know that you're not dumping. So whether you're saying I'm going to lock up part of the supply, all of the supply, I'm going to be burning my tokens. I mean, you could create the dev account, burn all of those tokens, but buy from a second account, right? So that if you are looking to maximize profits, you could have the developer, the launch account, sort of putting on the show of being legitimate. Again, these are unregulated. If you did this in a real market, this would be insider activity. It would be highly illegal. I can't stress that enough. But with meme coins, anything goes because they are baseless bullshit ideas. So as I continue in this, and we're just having fun, a lot of people have asked me, how do you do this? So step one, have the communication channel ready, right? The coin is going to be top of funnel. The comment section is going to send them to places where you can extend that comms. You can basically have a place for them to check in and find a reason to purchase this asset. That's what people are looking for. And as fun as this is, and we can see through this like massive spike, that there is like a joyride, right? When I got my buddies involved, it was at the bottom here, right? And like everybody had to contribute like $20 in order to move this thing. I'm talking, begging my friends to just like toss a couple dollars at this. But once it started to get energy, one of them was like, screw it, I'm going to activate my account. Then they started sharing it on Twitter, right? So you can see that if you have a way to push it, if you have an appropriate communications channel, you can activate other people to, again, get that organic reach. And that's something that's very effective. So if I were to do this with the goal of this meme coin actually functioning, of being something with longevity, I would set that up ahead of time. Then fundamentally after that, chasing buyers after the launch, probably not the best idea. If I did want to launch a coin and I really wanted to get it past this minting graduation point, well, I would probably have some buyers lined up. Now, you could do this in a couple ways. You could get a group of people together and say, hey, let's all throw in like $100. You could front it yourself if you wanted to. Be like, I got $500. I'm going to buy it from a few accounts. Again, I've talked about this, but like some grifters I know said that they raised some money privately and then they just had 2 people trading it for 24 hours. So it looked like there was 24 hours worth of organic trade. I am saying this to educate you on how much bullshit goes on in this environment. And you should not look at these things and think, wow, there's organic value creation. These are baseless meme coins, shit coins. They are fundamental garbage. However, that makes them perfect for casino and gambling and all those kind of actions. So again, I would set up my communication channels, have the top of funnel here. I would have buyers and traders ready to rock. I would have some sort of plan about how we're going to deploy capital. If you want to earn that money back, once you get follow-on buyers, you could start to remove liquidity. Now, if you remove liquidity too early, you are going to be rugging. You are going to be dropping that value so aggressively that you're basically done with the coin. So you do have to be patient if you want to try to profit off of this. All of that is probably the most straightforward path to beginning this thing. Then once it launches, you're in a much larger PR campaign and you might want some substantial marketing beyond that. But what people have asked me was, hey man, how do you do it? How do you launch it? So this is really straightforward. You go to radium.io if you want to do it here. You go to Launch Lab, and this is where I started. And of course, the provider was all over this yesterday. It was super exciting. He's kind of died off today. He is no longer providing. His family is starving. But over here in the top right-hand corner, launch a token. And guys, it's just so simple. So for the provider, I put in the full name, and then of course you can pick whatever ticker you want. Then you put in the description and whatever you feel like. And last but not least, select a file and find something you like. Yeah, so for the image, again, I just generated something in Grok. Super simple, super easy. In the age of AI, this is like truly wild. There you go. Boom. And this is the provider. Obviously, I would recommend using a real description, but I just didn't feel like banging it in there. Now, last but not least, you hit create token. You do have to connect a wallet. I skipped over that step. You need a phantom wallet. This is all on Solana. So as long as that wallet's connected, you hit create token, it'll pop up and you get this request for initial buy. Now, this is up to you. The initial buy is going to represent how much of the token you own. Now, I did like half a SOL, which is why I quickly fell into a minority holding. Anybody with a couple SOL to toss at this made a lot more money. Now, I will say my half a SOL, if I wanted to rug it, I could have done it for like 12 SOL at the top of this whole thing. But they also say that buying small amounts helps protect your token from the snipers. Now, this is something that's out there. These are bots that are looking at new tokens that are going to snipe it at the time of the mint. Basically, as the token's getting generated, they're going to try to get in there at the cheapest price, which means whatever price you probably have. And then if it goes up at all, they're going to dump on you. So this is unfortunately the game that you're playing, is how can I out-snipe? And eventually you type in how many tokens you want, you hit buy, and your wallet will pop up, make a transaction, and you're good to go. And that's Radium. Now, let's move on because it's a very simple process across a lot of these things. And this is Radium Launch Labs. Why did I do it here? I just saw that there was better creator revenue flow than Pump.Fun. This is because Radium's competing with Pump.Fun. But the trade-off is that Pump.Fun has many more users. It's established, it's a much better brand, and it also has this utterly maniacal interface, which feels like a seizure. But you can do this similar kind of thing. If you go here, top right corner, create a new coin. So skipping ahead, I type in the name, the provider, I type in the ticker, PRV, run the description, I add the image, and you can see that the setup is the same. It's actually even simpler, right? There's barely anything going on here. Okay, so here we are, Pump.Fun, same exact kind of idea. It's even simpler. We have the name, the provider, PRVD. We've got the description that I copied right from my Radium account. And of course you bang in coin. And let's just do it. Let's launch it. Why not? Okay, so I just confirmed it with a bit of a Solana purchase, and it doesn't even show me the market. It's just taken me back to this empty page. Now, let's see, is she alive? And here you go. Unlike Radium, which was a bit clearer as to where your token lives, here is the provider on Pump.Fun. I actually had to search it up in the search bar, so not quite as discoverable, but we'll see what happens. Here's the market. And it's going to go through the same basically bonding curve process. Now you have a new token that's live on Pump.Fun. Here it is. And you can see it's my initial candle, which is really just seeding the liquidity, and who knows what happens. What it has to do is make it through this bonding curve. Of course, they also have King of the Hill, which is basically a competitive game against other assets. But we're looking at this. To graduate this coin, you need about 55,000 in market cap, and who knows how this all works out. Now, again, this is just launched. I don't have any strategy behind it, so it's probably going to be a fail. However, you can see how easy it was to pull off. And so you can see creating these things takes like 2 seconds. It takes a little bit of Solana, just like whatever you have sitting around your wallet, but obviously a game plan and some preparations would help a lot. It could be all media that you use through sheer grit. It could be having some capital on the buy side in order to pump that price. But this is why it's called Pump.Fun, right? Again, things that like you really shouldn't think are correlating to the real markets. This is exactly what you try to regulate out of the actual markets. You want the asset valuation to be motivating the price, etc. But this is all a game. And for those of you that asked how to do it, I hope this really helped. Next week, I'm going to go back to posting about the technology and things that I find interesting in the industry. But again, get out there, have some fun, and best of luck to y'all. I'll see you on Monday.